Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit, and we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning and evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And I thought we'd take a little deviation today, like we sometimes do, to look at the saint that's assigned for today. Now, as you can see, I'm actually on vacation this week, and you can see I have a little scrubbing, haven't been shaven, but I hope you'll excuse me for that. But today's feast day is the feast of Saint Martin of Tours, and he is a immensely popular saint, particularly among the French people. Saint Martin was born in the 4th century and was a soldier in the Roman Empire and had a conversion to Christ. Now, when he was a catechumen, he had a really interesting encounter. One day while he was riding on his horse, a poor man was begging by the side of the road and was cold and shivering. And so at that time, Martin took his cloak and with his sword cut off a huge piece of his cloak and gave it to him and wrapped it around him. Later that night, he had a vision in a dream, and there was Jesus Christ wrapped in the cloak. And Jesus said, "Martin, a catechumen, gave me this cloak." And so it certainly made a deep impression on Martin as he was preparing for his baptism as an adult and membership in the church. He became a disciple of Saint Hilary of Poitiers. Saint Hilary was a wonderful saint for you to read about as well, because at one time France was overtaken by a heresy called Arianism. And the semi-Arians and the Arians were doing all sorts of things to distort the gospel. And at one point, the Arian party got control of the bishoprics of the various dioceses in France. And St. Hilary was the only one who was keeping the one holy Catholic and apostolic faith. And because of that, the rest of the bishops in France voted him into exile. And while he was in exile, he continued to pray and to write. And then ultimately, the Vatican ruled that, in fact, and not the Vatican, but the actual council met together and ruled against Arianism for the heresy that it is. And Hilary was eventually restored, right? Even though he was the only person who stood up for the faith, he ended up being right? We don't do theology by popular opinion or by the number of people who do it one way or another. Truth is truth. So St. Martin was one of his particular disciples. And St. Martin became really a very beloved, founding monasteries and spending time with the people because he was really known to be a man of the people. Because of his military background and his conversion as a soldier to the faith, Martin eventually became a priest and then a bishop, and he succeeded St. Hilary as the bishop in Tours, a nearby town in what then was known as Gaul, for those of you who remember from your Latin classes, now, of course, known as France. During the French Revolution, however, his shrine was destroyed and the relics were scattered. And in the 1860, the shrine was restored, and by the 1870s, a major basilica was built over, and he continues to be venerated as one of the primary patrons of France, along, of course, with Joan of Arc. But it is interesting to me. I love how God works out coincidences and stays anonymous. But we, of course, celebrate something else today, and that is Veterans Day. And in the rest of the world, what we celebrate as Memorial Day is today. It is known as Remembrance Day or Armistice Day, because it was on the feast of Saint Martin of Tours that the armistice was declared for World War I, of course, at that time known as the Great War. And so I just think there's a wonderful, wonderful divine coincidence that the end of that terrible war with the trench warfare in France and all of that was just so horrific for mankind, that human beings were so unbelievably cruel to one another, ended on the feast of St. Martin, the former soldier who took his cloak and covered Christ. So we thank God in America here for all the service of our veterans, everybody who served our country. And we also remember, as the rest of the world is, all those who gave their lives in the service of justice and the service of their countries. So I hope that you are having a good morning today and that you have a wonderful Wednesday, and look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. May God bless you.